Hello and welcome to this tutorial, and in this tutorial we'll be writing some Java code in order to handle a button click so that when the user clicks this button he is redirected to the second activity. So in the previous tutorial we have designed the layout for the first activity as well as the second activity, and we also had a basic introduction to intents. So basically intents are nothing but they are used in order to switch between one activity to another activity. Now in this tutorial we'll be actually using intents so as to switch from one activity to another. So in order to add an intent, first we go to the class of our main activity, and also make sure that you delete the toolbar, that is because we won't be needing it. So once this is done, the next thing which we do is that we have already added a method to the on click of a button. So for example, if you go to the button right here and if you select this and if you go to text, as you could see we have added an on click to this button right here, and we have mentioned a method which is also called as an on click. So now the next thing which we need to do is that we need to write this method in Java. So we switch to the Java code, and right below this on create we go ahead and create a method which is called as the on click. So we type public void on click, and to this method we are going to pass view. And now the first thing which we'll need to do is that we need to add an intent so as to switch from one activity to another activity. So the first thing which you'll need to do to add an intent is to type intent, then give the intent a name. But before giving a name, we import the intent. So we press Alt and enter, and it is going to automatically import the package which contains intent. Now once intent is imported, then we simply name this intent. So let's say we want to name the intent as I. Then we type this equals new intent, and to the intent we pass on two parameters. So the first parameter is going to be this, and the next parameter is going to be the class which we want to pass, or in the second parameter we usually pass the class of the activity which we want to switch to. So for example, in this case, as we want to switch to the activity 2 right here, we specify here activity2 dot class, and basically we are done with creating an intent. Now the next thing which we will need to do is just to start the activity which is present in the intent. So in order to start an activity, we use a function which is called as start activity, and to this we are going to pass the intent which is I, and make sure that you have the s as small. Now once we are done with this, we are done for creating the code for switching from one activity to another activity. So we simply save the code and execute it on the emulator. So as you could see, our application is up and running on the emulator, and we click on this button right here. As you could see, we switch to the new activity which is the second activity. So basically what we have done is that we have used intents in order to switch from one activity to other activity, and when we click this button nothing happens, and that is because we have not yet added a on click to this button right here. Now the next thing which we are going to do is that we are going to the first activity and we are going to add a edit text right over here, and then we are going to pass in some data to the edit text, and when we click this button right here, what is going to happen is that this first activity is going to pass text to the next activity. So the first thing which you'll need to do is that you need to switch to the XML file of your first activity, and then you need to add an edit text to it. So we go under the text fields and we drag and drop this plain text right over here, and once the text field is added, the next thing which we do is that we set the width of this. So we go right here and let's say we want the width to be 250 dp. So as you could see, we have changed the width of this first activity. Now the next thing which we need to do is that we need to give an ID to this. So again we go into properties and we search for ID, and we give it an ID of, let's say, first input. Now once we have given this an ID, we switch to the Java class, and inside the Java class right inside this onClick activity, in between this intent and start activity, we are going to write some code so as to pass on the text. So the first thing which we'll need to do is that we will need to get a reference to the text. So we type final edit text, as this is an edit text. Then we type in first input as the name of this edit text equals edit text for typecasting it, and then finally we find view by ID. So we type find view by ID, and inside it we type r.id dot, and the ID of the edit text is nothing but the first input, so we type in first input. So now once we have the reference to the edit text, the next thing which we need to do is that we need to extract the text from the edit text. So in order to do that, we use a string so as to store the user message. So we create a string right here. So we type string user message equals first input dot get text, and the get text method is basically used in order to get the text from the first input. Now when we have the text, the next thing which we do is we convert it into a string, and that is because we need to store the text into a string. So we use the toStrings method. So we type toString, and that line of code is going to save the string in the user message for us. Now the next thing which we need to do is that as we have the string with us, we need to pass on the string by using the intent. So the intent which we have created is I. So in order to pass on a message with the intent, we use the put extra method. So we type I dot put extra, and it is going to use two parameters. So the first parameter is going to be the name of the message. So let's say we call it as first message, and the next thing which we need to do is that we just need to pass on this string which we have just created. So we type user message, so that along with the intent the user message gets passed, and in order to reference this we use the first message. So now once the message is sent to the second activity, the next thing which we need to do is that we need to receive the message in the second activity. So we switch to this activity2.java, and as you could see, this is our onCreate method, and we go ahead and delete this toolbar. So we delete this entire thing, and now the next thing which we do is that we get the intent and we get the message which is stored inside the intent. So in order to do that, we type bundle, and in order to extract the data, let's say we name it as first data, then we type it equals get intent. Now get intent is a method which is used to get the intent. Now from the get intent we need to get the extras, and extras is nothing but the message which we have passed. So we use the get extras method. So we type get extras, and when we have it, the next thing which we need to do is that we simply need to print this text on our second activity. So first let's extract the string which we have received. So the first thing which we do is that we check if the user has not passed a blank message to us. So we type if first data is equal to null, then we simply want to return. So we type return. So basically this piece of code right here is going to return if we have nothing stored in the first data, and that is when the user is passing us a blank message. Now what we want to do is that we want to get the string and we want to store it into something so that it could be displayed. So in order to do that, we create a string variable so as to hold our data or to hold our string. So we type first message equals first data dot get string, and the get string method is used in order to get the string, and inside the get string method we want to pass in the name of the message which we have passed from the main activity. So this is the name of our message, so we simply copy this, go here, and within double quotes we specify the message, and once this is done we have the message which is passed from the first activity to the second activity. Now the next thing which we need to do is that we just need to display it on the second activity. So what we do is that we use this text right here in order to display the message. So we simply use the ID of this in order to get the reference to the text view. So if we check its ID, it is nothing but the second text. So the first thing which we need to do is that we need to get a reference to the text. So we type final text view and let's name it as second text equals, and let's typecast it. So we again type text view and we use find view by id to get the reference. So we type r dot id dot second text, as the second text is an id of our second text view. So once we have a reference, we simply set the text of this text. So we type second text dot set text, and we want the text to be set to this first message right here. So we simply copy it, go right here and paste it. So once we do that, we are pretty much done with our program. So we save the code and we run our application onto the emulator. So as you could see, our application is up and running on the emulator. So this is our first activity and we have the edit text as well as a button. So now let's enter some text into the edit text. So let's type hi there. Now let's click this button right here. So as you could see, the second activity displayed the text hi there. So basically we are successful in passing the message from the first activity to the second activity by using the intent. So that's it for this tutorial, and I hope you guys understood what intents are and what is the main purpose of using intents. So basically intents are used in order to switch from one activity to other activity, and we could also pass data from one activity to other by using the intents. So thank you very much for watching this tutorial, and I'll see you guys in the next tutorial. Thank you.